Hello, my name is Limariette.
My name is Bonita Carlin, and we're doing a presentation of the phenomenological research method.
Alright, so before we start with our presentation, you are going to do a KWL chart. I'm going to click the link so you can have an idea of the chart that you're going to fill up. You can do it while we're doing this section, or you can pause the presentation and then you can click on the link. Alright, so you're going to respond for K and W. K means what I know about the method, and W, it means what I want to know. So you're going to fill out these two columns over here. Please do it before we start the presentation, okay? We're going to appreciate that. Alright, so going back to our presentation. So what is phenomenology? So this is a brief description of this method. It's a qualitative method that studies human experiences of a phenomenon. And what is a phenomenon? It's observable fact or event. For example, the experience of being a first-year teacher. So that can be an example of this method. And when it talks about experience, it can be different things. It can be social, emotional, intellectual, and others. Alright, so Polkinghorne suggested that the purpose is to produce clear, precise, and systematic description of the meaning that constitutes the activity of consciousness. This model focus is often on describing how a phenomenon is universally experienced, and this is also called a sense of experience. Alright, so imagine you are interested in studying how first-year administrators experience the sense of isolation that often accompanies their first administrative position. So, to complete this study, you conduct interviews with the first-year administrators who have experienced isolation in their first administrative position. Then, through your analysis, you develop an understanding of their experience as a first-year administrator who feels isolated in their first administrative position. So this is an example. There's different types of phenomenology. The book does not talk about them, but we searched deeper into this method and we found a couple of those types. We're going to talk about only 3, so you have an idea. The first one is descriptive. It refers to the study of personal experience and requires a description or interpretation of the meanings of phenomena experienced by the participants in an investigation. So the second one talks about the essence. It analyzes the essence perceived by consciousness with regard to individual experiences. And the last one is ecological. It refers to the analysis of the self as a conscious entity. This type of phenomenology appeals to universal consciousness. So when you have the chance, just take a look at that, analyze them so you can see if you can find any difference between them, or maybe they are similar. Alright, so this is the question time. It's only 3 questions for you to think about the previous slides. So the first one
Is in your own words, what does phonological research mean?
Okay, so just think.
Think of one example and complete the experience of. Such what would the experience of mean?
So an example of that can be the experience of feeling stressed the first year of teaching.
And mention one type of phonology that we have covered in our presentation.
Alright. Also, you can answer these questions in the comment section. Next slide.
Pure phonology research seeks essentially to describe rather than explain, and to start from a perspective free from hypotheses or preconceptions. Hustler, 1970, he's the one with the people that came up with this theory about phonological research.
And this He's been studying that for years and years and years. And then after him, other people, researchers, jump in and keep working with this method.
Okay, the methodology on the research process is, first of all, you decide what you're going to research, okay? Then you find the participants, and then you decide what type of method you're going to use to gather it. You can do open-ended questions, you could do interviews. You also for the process of how you're going to evaluate the data, and then the strategies you're going to get to analyze it and form your hypothesis. And then you also other documents you use to bring in for the analysis. And in data collection, like we said, you could do interview participants regarding phenomena of interest, and you can transcribe interviews for analysis. Also, in the data analysis, you're going to read the transcripts to get the sense of the whole experience, identify units of significance that have parts, and value of the units of significance by relying on the participants' experience, develop things that tie the units together for significance, and identify and consolidate a deeper construction of the phenomenon. Advantages of doing this research is you can take a chance process over time. It helps understand people's feelings and how people's meaning. It helps to adjust to new issues and ideas as they emerge. It contributes to the development of new theories and gathers data which seems as natural rather than artificial. The disadvantages is the fact data gathering can take a great deal of time and resources because you're doing interviews, you're answering questions, and you have to compile this stuff together. Analyze and interpret the data may be difficult. It can be harder than posterior approach to control over the process and endpoints. So sometimes there's not definitely an endpoint to this research. Okay, and policymakers have given lower credibility to this research.
All right, so now we're going to talk about some examples that we found so you can have an idea of what a phenomenological research really looks like in education. If you can read the title, please.
Process and Influence, a phenomenological study of career decision making among community college students.
All right, so we include also the abstract. When you have the chance, just take a look at it. And also we include a second example, and the title of this one is An Evaluation of Teachers' Classroom Management Problems. And I really like this one because this one is in depth and has more detail and information. For example, it talks about the data collection, the tools they use, how many open-ended questions they did, and how many people they interviewed. So they have more details. Some examples of research questions are: what are the lived experiences of school principals as instructional leaders in an urban school? What are the differences and similarities in the structures of experience of expert teachers from South Africa, Russia, and the USA?
Okay, so here we have a video that goes in more in depth on phonology method.
Welcome to an explainer on phenomenology. At its most basic, phenomenology is the study of lived experience. As its name suggests, phenomenology is concerned with the study of phenomena that arise from the experience of being in the world. The development of modern phenomenology, established by Edmund Husserl in the early 20th century, was a break from the Cartesian system that pitched stark distinctions between the outer, real reality and the individual experience of reality. Following the Cartesian principle, outer reality is a separate and distinct entity that can only be understood in rational terms through cognitive processes of deduction. Sense perception was thought to distort this process, and certainly emotions were considered a lower form of experience emanating from the recesses of the body. In contrast, phenomenology seeks to understand the outside world as it is interpreted by and through human consciousness. Ontologically speaking, that means speaking in terms of how philosophers understand the nature of being and existence. Husserl purported that reality could be grasped by and through structures of consciousness by applying what he called intentionality to the object of study, or intentionally directing one's focus to describe realities. For Husserl, to achieve deeper understanding of an object of study, a researcher could quarantine their personal judgments, a process called bracketing, so that preconceived notions do not interfere with the phenomenological inquiry. It is at this point that Martin Heidegger's approach breaks with Husserl's process. In fact, Heidegger was very critical of Husserl's phenomenology, where Husserl sought to capture objects of study as graspable entities that could be objectively studied. Heidegger employed the notion of Dasein, the situated meaning of a human in the world. For Heidegger, consciousness is a product or construction of the historical context from which it arises, and in turn, one can never approach an object of study in a presuppositionless form. That is, objects of study cannot be neatly separated from their contexts, nor should they be. Reality and consciousness are co-creations, and because of this, human understanding always arises from the relationship between the two acting upon each other. Thank you for watching.
Alright, so in this video you saw different persons and they have different perspective about this method. I found it really interesting, so I hope you enjoy it and learn something from it.
Okay, so now we got back to the KWL chart. After you watch the presentation, you click on the link below and write your response for L. Of course, you know L means for what you learned. And we do hope you learned something from our presentation.
Alright, so I'm going to click over here. And you're going to fill up the last column. Please complete it. And also you can add some comments and questions in our D2L section. So don't forget about that. Alright, so that was our presentation. We hope you enjoy it. And if you have any questions, just let us know.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.